The studio lights of the Joe Rogan Experience glowed warm and bright, a sharp contrast to the thick tension floating unseen in the room. Prince Harry sat across from Joe Rogan, headphones on, leaning slightly forward in his chair. He had done dozens of interviews before, but this one felt different. Joe Rogan was direct, unfiltered, and famously unpredictable. And Harry knew that stepping into Joe's domain meant stepping into the lion's den. All right, folks, Joe said into the mic, his voice filling the room and the millions of listeners who tuned in live. We've got Prince Harry here today. Duke of Sussex. Guy who shook up the monarchy. Let's get into it. Harry forced a polite smile. Thanks for having me. At least for now, Joe muttered jokingly. But the edge in his tone wasn't entirely playful. Harry laughed softly, trying to keep the mood light. I'll try not to break anything. Oh, no worries. You already broke the monarchy, Joe shot back. The producers exchanged glances. Within the first minute, the show had changed direction. Harry inhaled calmly. I didn't break anything. I simply chose a healthier life for my family. Joe leaned forward, arms crossed. But that's the thing, man. You say that, but you're on the biggest shows, documentaries, books, podcasts. How do you call it stepping back when you've never been more in the spotlight? Harry held his gaze. I'm telling my truth. That's different from being trapped in an institution. Joe smirked. Truth has versions now. Harry's voice cooled. Truth is personal. Facts may be universal. But truth is lived. Joe raised an eyebrow. All right, philosophy prince. Let's talk about your time in the army. Harry straightened. That I'm happy to talk about. Joe clicked his pen. You said in your book that you viewed the Taliban like chess pieces. Harry tensed. And people lost their minds, Joe continued. Do you regret saying that? Harry hesitated just a second too long. I regret the way it was framed, he answered carefully. War is dehumanizing, not because you want it to be, but because it has to be. It's survival. Joe nodded. Okay, I get that. But you know what I don't get? Harry braced himself. You talk a lot about mental health, good. But then you say soldiers must detach emotionally. Isn't that contradictory? Harry shook his head. No. It's about compartmentalization. You can't carry every emotion in the moment. But you process it later, healthy processing. Joe stopped writing and stared at him. Do you actually process it? Or do you just talk about processing it? Harry's jaw clenched. Joe, I'm not here for sound bites. You're literally here for a podcast, Joe replied. The room froze for half a heartbeat. Then Harry leaned back, his expression tightening. I came here to have a real conversation. If you're not interested in that, we can end this now. Joe sat up straighter. Whoa, I'm having a real conversation. But I'm not going to sugarcoat anything because you're a prince. I'm not asking you to, Harry said calmly. I'm asking for respect. Joe held up his hands. I respect you, man. But I also question things. That's my job. And answering with honesty is mine, Harry said, his voice firm. But I won't be interrogated like I'm on trial. Joe let out a breathy laugh. You're not on trial. Trust me, if you were, the questions would be tougher. Harry removed his headphones. I think we're done. Joe blinked. What? Harry stood. I'm not here to be mocked or belittled. Joe leaned back in disbelief. You're walking off. Seriously. Harry stared at him, eyes unwavering. I came in good faith. You didn't. Joe scoffed. Dude, I treat everyone the same. Elon Musk, Bernie Sanders, MMA fighters. Comedians, nobody gets special treatment. I didn't ask for special treatment. Harry's tone was calm but cutting. I asked for humanity. The producers jumped up from behind the glass, unsure whether to intervene. Joe removed his own headphones. Look, man, I'm not your enemy. But if you're going to storm off every time someone challenges you. Harry interrupted. I've lived a life where everything I say is twisted. I thought this show would allow free expression. Instead, it feels like an ambush. Joe stood now too. Ambush. This is a conversation between two adults. Then act like one, Harry snapped. A thick silence filled the room. Finally, Joe exhaled loudly and turned toward his team. All right, folks. Looks like we're done here. Prince Harry is leaving the building. Harry walked toward the door, his steps controlled, shoulders tense. But just as he reached the exit, he turned around. I don't mind hard questions, Joe, he said, voice steady. But there's a line between tough and disrespectful. And you crossed it. Joe didn't flinch. And you crossed the line between honest and sensitive. Harry nodded once, almost sadly. Maybe. Or maybe you're afraid of answers that don't fit your narrative. Joe opened his mouth, but Harry was already gone. The door slammed softly, not loud, but final. The remaining studio was stunned into a rare silence. Joe rubbed the back of his neck, then sat back down in his chair. He looked into the camera. Well, he said into the mic, that was something. He paused. For the record, I didn't kick him out. He walked out. But, yeah, that got heated. The comments flooded in instantly, millions of reactions, opinions, debates. Some defended Harry. Some defended Joe. The world buzzed with theories and accusations. Meanwhile, Harry stepped out into the bright California sunlight, feeling the warmth on his face. He inhaled deeply. Maybe he shouldn't have gone on the show. But in that moment, he felt strangely relieved. For once in his life, he had walked away, not because he was forced to, but because he chose to. And for Prince Harry, that was freedom.